Number two, a lot of issues have been raised by some governors. And I would like to comment on that of Ogun State. And I will invite you as resourceful journalists and media practitioners, whether electronic or print. These are not issues that are between me as a person and any other person. If I speak to the culture of APC, it is not a secret document. If we raise issues about the provisions of the Electoral Act, they are not classified legislations. They are things that any one of you can, on your own, obtain a copy, read through it, and reach your own conclusion as to whether or not my position is right or wrong. In the APC Constitution, the only body, the only organ authorized by our party to conduct primaries is the National Working Committee, of which I am privileged to be the chairman. But there are processes that must be followed before the exercise of these powers or responsibilities. Namely, our National Executive Council met and, in its wisdom, decided to invoke the relevant provisions of our Constitution, which, among other things, allow us to conduct either direct primaries, in which every member can carry members of our party is entitled to vote, or to do indirect primaries, in which case it is done by delegates. These delegates may well be people who have been elected at the ward level, at the local government level, and, of course, at the state level. Now, in the case of Ogun State, I will talk slowly so that you don't miss any of the points. Governor Ibikule Amosun, like any other governor, where we have governors, and leaders where we don't have governors, went back in accordance with the resolution of the National Executive Council to convey a meeting of the State Executive Council as directed by the National Executive Council. And those meetings were meant to include not just the State Executive Council. The NEC, in its wisdom, said it should also include critical stakeholders. And for the purpose of primaries, there can be no question that anyone who is seeking election to any of the offices is obviously a stakeholder in the process, particularly when the only matter on agenda is how those primaries will be conducted. And in order to ensure that this process is done cleanly, there are no manipulations, the NEC, in its wisdom, also resolved that when a state has opted for any of the options, the state is obliged, the state executive is obliged to ensure that majority of the members signed the resolution, not just one or two people signing for and on behalf of the others. This was to avoid a situation where one or two may purport to act on behalf of the others. On a good day when you have a meeting, the signature of the chairman and the secretary of the minutes will suffice. But because our party was determined to transparency and ensuring that this process is free of manipulation, it resolved that every member that attend that meeting, at least a simple majority of those attending, must sign the resolution. Now, Governor Amosun went back to Abeokuta, like other governors went to their various state capitals. In fairness to him, he conveyed a meeting that substantially meets the requirement, as envisaged by or as resolved by the NEC, namely a meeting of the State Executive Council and some of the critical stakeholders. I talk about substantial compliance in the sense that there were people who are supposed to have been invited to those meetings, to that meeting, that were not invited. This includes some former senators who are entitled and who are supposed to be invited. They include former governors or deputy governors who are supposed to be invited, who were not invited. But at least there were many others who ought to be invited, who ought to have been invited, who were duly invited. And therefore, everything considered, I like to say that I think they substantially comply with the requirement of convening that state executive. At the meeting, and this is no secret, I expect that some of your media houses will have video clips of what transpired at that meeting, because it wasn't a closed-door meeting. It was an open meeting. Governor Amosun, in his wisdom, decided to introduce a third element, which didn't feature in the resolutions of the National Executive Council. He announced that Ogun State was going to adopt consensus, and he proceeded to define what, in his view, constitutes consensus, and having defined it to mean the pronouncement by the governor, he went on to announce what, according to him, represent the consensus candidate. He announced one, I believe Akindele or someone, Akinlade, I said that Akinlade will be the next governor. He is the consensus governor. He proceeded to announce another gentleman who he said will be the deputy governor, consensus. He went on to proclaim himself as the next senator, consensus. And he says the current senator in his own senatorial zone, Senator Teju Osho, will step aside so that he, Ibikula Amosun, at the end of his tenure as governor, will proceed to the Senate. According to him, this is his own consensus. He went on to also announce that the second senator, also from Ogun State, will step aside, and another gentleman will come in place of that senator. And according to him, this pronouncement is a consensus. Not done, Governor Amosun went on to announce a particular gentleman who will be the next speaker. He went to announce another one who will be the next deputy speaker of the State House of Assembly. Governor Amosun, according to him, in his own view or definition of consensus, also unilaterally pronounced that of the 8 sitting House of Representative members, 7 will not return, according to him. Only 1 will return. This, he claimed, is a consensus. He went on to list other members of the House of Assembly who will seek re-election and those who will not seek re-election. All told, he announced about 40 names, which, according to him, constitute consensus. The good people of Ogun State easily be one of the states that you can readily describe, not flattering, as perhaps the most sophisticated politically state in Nigeria. And we can't forget that that is the state that produced the great Obafemi Awolowo. And I don't think I need to say more in terms of tracing the history and the level of political enlightenment and sophistication of the great people of Ogun State. Now, when he was done with this unilateral pronouncement, exactly the manner that an emperor will do to his subject in a feudal society, the people of Ogun State who were in that meeting instantly rejected the decision, the unilateral imposition by Governor Amosun. And they took advantage of the fact that they are aware that we are in a democracy. They all have copies of the APC constitution. Nothing in that constitution empowers a governor to decree who will be the next governor or decree who will be the next senator in the manner with which Amosun did it. And so they all in unison rejected Amosun's one-man imposition. Governor Amosun, unable to recognize that in a democracy, it's a game of numbers, not a game of power, he went on angrily to announce that if they do not accept this imposition, then they should be ready to go for direct primaries. And the people will say, yes, they prefer and they are ready to go for direct primaries. Consequent upon this decision, the state organ of the party wrote to the NWC through my office, the chairman, to inform me that they are going to do direct primaries. And of course, as servants of the party, and in line with the resolution of the NEC, we immediately accepted this decision. But few days before the primaries were due, Governor Amosun, along with few other governors, called me to a meeting at which Amosun and one or two others insisted that Amosun Padua said that he was not going to do primaries. He will not do direct primary. He went on to say all kinds of things which I will spare you the details. But I just replied him that it is not up to him, or indeed up to me, or anyone in APC, to decide whether or not primaries will be conducted. First, these are orders provided for in the Electoral Act. They are also acknowledged in our party constitution. And we run the party on the basis of our rules, not on the basis of the party. And I respectfully try to persuade Amosun and those who think like him that it was not within the powers of any governor or group of governors to nullify the decision of the National Executive Council. And therefore, I shall proceed to provide leadership in setting up various committees by the National Working Committee that will conduct elections across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. We proceeded to empanel a committee by the NWC that we dispatched to Ogun State to conduct the direct primaries. On arrival in Ogun State, the committee, in their wisdom, decided to pay Governor Amosun a courtesy visit. I'm not sure that that was necessary, but in their judgment, they did. Having paid a courtesy visit, the governor provided a hall for the panel to invite all the aspirants that had been assembled to discuss the mode and the rules of procedure in the conduct of the direct primaries. While this meeting was going on, again, this is no secret. Every media house here, I believe, you have your brothers and sisters in Ogun State. Minutes into the meeting, agents of the state government unleashed thuggery, and they were shooting, firing weapons, and everybody ran for safety, including the aspirants, some of whose names were being mentioned by these thugs that they will kill them, and they all ran away, and the panel members also escaped back to their hotel. As a result of that, the pre-election conference, which was supposed to have taken place on that Monday, in order to brief the aspirants and their agent on the rules of procedure, that meeting was inconclusive. So it was subsequently adjourned to the following Tuesday. That Tuesday, they met, they agreed on the rules, they got vehicles ready to convey the election materials, as well as those returning officers in the various wards where these elections were meant to be done, because they were direct primaries to be conducted at the ward headquarters. Amosun suddenly, at the last meeting, Governor Amosun, His Excellency Governor Amosun, the executive governor of Ogun State, decided that he and his own preferred aspirant will not participate in the primaries, and even tried to withdraw the security that was necessary for these people to be able to conduct the primaries and ensure that there was no violence. Fortunately, this panel is headed by a retired commissioner of police who is familiar with security issues. And they proceeded to conduct the primaries with Governor Amosun and his preferred candidate opting out of the process, and the rest went on to conduct the primaries. And they submitted the result to us here, and as well, the result sheets, as well as a report, including how thugs were unleashed on them, and those who they suspected were behind those the use of those talks. This report was considered by the National Working Committee, and we find it to be in total compliance with the guidelines, and the NWC accepted the result of that panel that nominated Prince Abiodun, what's his surname now? Dapo Abiodun, as the duly elected candidate of the All Progressive Congress in the forthcoming governorship election in Ogun State. However, Ogun State governor decided in his wisdom to conduct his own self-help. I mean, resorting to what you can call self-help by conducting what he called his own primaries. The secretary to Ogun State government for this purpose became the chief returning officer. And for Channels Television, and I'm sure they were, it also featured another TV network, but fortunately on that particular day, I was watching Channels Television along with other members of the AWC. And we saw the secretary to Ogun State government proclaiming himself as a returning officer and purporting to have conducted primaries. Halfway through reading the result, I suspect that it occurs to them that the conduct of the primaries was not meant to be done by state government officials. So immediately he gave way to the state chairman of the APC in Ogun State, who unfortunately, the court of law has restrained him along with all the other people elected along with him at the state, local government, and ward level, not to parade themselves as officials of the All Progressive Congress. And that court order was still subsisting, and as I speak, that court order is subsisting. In spite of this court order, this gentleman went on and, for evidence, played back Channel Television News, which you can retrieve at any time. So this is not my word against anybody's word. I read some of these stories through the electronic and print media. And he now concluded by saying, he proclaimed, he said, he, as the state chairman of Ogun State chapter, hereby declare Governor Amosun's preferred candidate as the winner of the self-help primaries. Of course, for me, this is laughable. First, because this approach is unknown to the Electoral Act. This approach is alien to the Constitution of the All Progressive Congress. And this individual purporting to be APC chairman has been barred by the court of law, not by a resolution of our party, that he should not so parade himself or in any way be involved in the conduct of the primaries. Don't forget, I started earlier by apologizing to the Supreme Court and restating our commitment to obey the rule of law. So if, as the chairman of APC, I submit to the provisions, to the rulings of the court, I don't know of any other person in the party who can purport in the name of APC to disobey a court order that was issued by a competent court whose jurisdiction is not in question. And even if it is in question, it will take another court to resolve the issue of jurisdiction. To the best of my knowledge, this is a settled order that the court validly issued. But Governor Amosun was not done. Being aware that there was such a court order, he approached a high court in Abeokuta, because this first order was issued by a high court in Abuja. He approached the Abeokuta High Court, and the High Court granted him a temporary relief of 48 hours interim order, ex parte order, which you can obtain without putting the other side on notice. But when the matter now came up for hearing, the other parties produced the evidence to the effect that what Governor Amosun did or his agent tantamount to abuse of court process, because this matter, there is already a subsisting court order by a high court in Abuja. And therefore, Abeokuta High Court cannot sit either as appellate court or sit to hear a matter that has already been determined by a high court in Abuja. And so, on the face of the evidence that this matter has already been pronounced upon by an Abuja High Court, the Abeokuta High Court struck out, vacated the interim order and ordered the parties to go before the Abuja High Court for the trial of the case. The court also found that those who were before him did not participate in the primaries that APC conducted, and therefore they do not have the locus standi to question how those primaries were conducted. And so the case was dismissed. Governor Amosun, having lost out through the law court, chose to resort to name dropping. And he has approached everyone he thinks can help him to undermine the extra provisions of the law and or the decisions of a competent court. He got some traditional rulers. The most prominent traditional rulers in Ogun State are well known. People like the Awujale of Ijebu, and so all those ones refused to attend, but he got some to attend, to come to Abuja, to persuade Abuja to put pressure on me to revise what has been properly done and to accept what is clearly unlawful. Not only unlawful, undemocratic, immoral, and tantamount to abuse of power. Our constitution does not recognize emperors. There are no emperors in APC. If anybody tried to invent himself as one, it would be an exercise in futility. Certainly, with all sense of modesty, not under my leadership. I am clear about our rules, and I'm clear about power, and I'm clear about the limitations of those power. Fortunately, I have been a governor for 8 years, and so I know what it takes to be a governor. I know the powers of a governor. I have subjected myself as a governor to primaries. I have passed through the tedious route democratically, not only to get myself re-elected, but also work hard democratically to get my party to have, to conduct primaries in which we participated in Edo State and a candidate emerged. And today we are the only state in the South-South that has passed through not just winning an election democratically, but transmitting power to its successor without resort to thuggery, without anybody being hospitalized, without anybody being brutalized, and without any controversy about the outcome of those primaries. So, as things stand, based on the rules of our party and in accordance with INEC guidelines, we have since conducted governorship elections in Ogun State, and we have submitted the name of the winner, Prince Dapo Abiodun, to INEC for the purpose of the forthcoming governorship election. That, for me, has concluded that matter. It cannot be reopened, except if a court of competent jurisdiction finds reasons to void what I believe we have done in accordance with the provisions of the law. It is beyond me now, or anyone in the NWC, to reopen what clearly is legally and appropriately and democratically closed.